Welcome to the Why Stop Now podcast. I'm Cameron, here with your boy Eyes. We're going to talk about some things we noticed in the world of sports the past 2 weeks. While you're here, follow the Why Stop Now pod, Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, and TikTok. And don't forget to like and subscribe on the video.
Yeah, I mean, you said it best right there. I definitely, we've been waiting a while to get this thing going.
It's what, a year in the works now? Something like
We'll talk about what's going on now, but we've been waiting about a year to get this thing started off. Here we are. We're finally doing it. What's going on, y'all? First off, um, we got to talk. We're going to start off with Georgia Clemson.
Of course we are.
Yeah, I'm looking right at your shirt. Like,
Look,
I was not going to do it, but we got to talk about it. It was in my opinion, game of the week, even though
yeah, as it should have been.
game day was up at down in at Kyle Field.
Yeah, for Texas A&M and Notre Dame.
Whatever.
Look, my opinion of the game, as I've talked to you off camera, first half was phenomenal. Defense was great. Offense was eh. Offense was all game. It just so happened that the second half of the game, Georgia's offense picked apart our defense.
Yeah, I mean, here's what I have to say. I mean, you're exactly right. Dude, y'all need to throw the ball downfield. You're not throwing the ball downfield. I felt like K Klubnik was right there as DJ, like DJU K Klubnik. Like, what am I watching? Because you're not throwing like I said, no ball throwing downfield.
And
Moffitt was starting the game. He was getting yards. He was work, dude. Moffitt was doing work at the beginning of the game.
In the passes that K did make downfield, even if they weren't caught, they were on par with where they should have been. It's like they're not giving him enough responsibility on the field to throw the ball downfield. Against a team like Georgia, these little screen passes the entire game, it's not going to work. Your defense is going to pick that apart.
You're going to have to make players miss, on the defensive side, and that's going to be hard against the Dogs. You have to make that.
Like, it shouldn't be playing Georgia shouldn't be an easy game. It shouldn't be looked at how it was maybe a few years ago when Georgia was, and I won't say an easier team, but they weren't the caliber they are currently.
The Kirby Smart era.
Yeah, I mean, the seasons prior to this year where we did start off with Georgia Clemson when Clemson was a number 2, number 3 ranked team. That was
the season where things started going a little bit downhill because if I remember correctly, Georgia was 5th and Clemson was 3rd, and they played in Charlotte. Georgia ended up winning the Natty that year, but it was a 10-7 close game. Only touchdown of the game was a pick 6.
Dabo himself is putting himself on the hot seat by creating the environment he did at Clemson and not continuously delivering as of now, as of the last 2 seasons.
Like, is it like the winning?
Yes, he took us from a 8-4, 7-5 team to a championship team, and now we're back to 9-3, which, I mean, and being realistic, had it been any other coach doing that, they would have already been kicked.
Yep. But it all comes back to that NIL and that transfer portal.
It does.
Yeah, which is where, I mean, they everybody who watched that game heard. I mean, if you were still watching there in the fourth quarter and a little bit of the third, they were talking a lot about that.
Dabo needs to stop playing pre-NIL ball. That's all he's doing, which was fine during that time period, but the game has evolved. The entire college athletics has evolved. and you can't stay stuck in that old thinking of, oh, I'm not going to pay somebody money. It's wrong. I mean, why is it wrong?
Oh, and I mean they're paying. I mean Clemson's paying players, obviously, but they're not. Where if a player wants to get paid, they're not looking at Clemson like that.
No.
You don't have any big boy NIL players like Carson Beck is making bank right now.
Nico from Tennessee.
Nico is in high school.
Arch Manning making bank. None of these types of players are looking at Clemson because they're not getting the same offers.
No. And you can call it whatever you want, but whenever Kirby said about Clemson, we don't see them as often in recruiting anymore. I mean, what's that? I mean, Georgia's getting the best talent there is, if not the best, then top 4 every year, top 3, top 4.
Sure, the Georgia depth chart is insane. Like we talked about all last season when we were watching these games together, Georgia could switch out first string for third string, and you don't notice any change in talent.
Barely, yeah. Yeah, like Ellis Robinson coming in late game, beautiful.
Like, who was that tight end last year that you had? He was like the second string, but he was like 6'6" and ginormous and fast. You know,
Washington.
Yeah, he was second string, and I was like,
first string Brock Bowers.
He was first string.
Yeah, well, if your first string is Brock Bowers.
Oh, yeah. But like that's what I'm saying. Like when you have a monster of a tight end like that is not only able to catch phenomenally, but is extremely fast.
Yeah, he hurdled over that guy.
Like that's what Clemson should be at. That's what Alabama should be at. That's what a Georgia should be at. And right now, Clemson is not at
that. No, they're not. As for me, living in the upstate, it's a little disappointing. I want to see him do well, but Aaron Murray, old quarterback of Georgia, said on a podcast recently after the game that we're all sitting back talking all this about Clemson, and they're going to end up being 11-1 ACC champs.
I know where you saw that on Facebook.
That's right.
Exactly where you saw it. I saw it too.
Yeah, you read that, didn't you?
I did.
Did you know who Aaron Murray was?
No, I didn't.
He's the SEC all-time leader in passing yards. That's who he is. From when he played at Georgia back in the Mark Richt era. He was a great quarterback. Just couldn't win the SEC championship.
The SEC championship, like we have previously stated, is – I mean, this is kind of biased. We both watch SEC football where, I mean, even though Clemson's in the ACC, we still have to pay attention to SEC football. It's relative to winning the national title. I mean, if you're not a 2017, 2018 Clemson, 15 FSU, I think, is who won the title. I think it was FSU in 2015, 14 or 15, around that time period. If you're not one of those teams, chances are, if you're not one of those championship teams, chances are it's an SEC team winning the title. The last, 14 years out of, the last, 12 years out of 14?
They've won a ton. Yeah, it's been a high percentage. If it's not Clemson, it's an SEC team or Ohio State,
Alabama,
got one,
Michigan. But I mean, realistically, if it's not Clemson, FSU, it's more than likely an SEC team. Again, whether it be Alabama, Georgia, LSU, any of those guys.
LSU, I can't believe they got beat by Southern Cal, dude.
And I mean, even now, what Texas is in the SEC, the SEC is just.
Texas beat the brakes off Michigan. I don't care what anybody says.
Well, look, what I was going to say, and we'll move on after I say this. The SEC in football is what the ACC is in basketball.
I don't know about that.
What do you mean you don't know that?
Maybe the old ACC.
Even I mean,
Faded a little bit in basketball, in my opinion.
well, I mean, even now the ACC basketball team still they might not necessarily win the title, but they are still high ranked.
Oh yeah. Nowadays, it's like Duke. Yeah, Duke's ranked. Obviously, Carolina's probably going to be ranked. Virginia's been iffy here lately. Virginia Tech, no. Boston College, no. NC State, no. And they went to the Final Four, yes, but they were not good all season. Okay, let's not forget they had to win the ACC championship just to get to the Final Four, just to make it to the tournament. That's what I'm just trying to say is like I think the comparison is a little outdated.
Well, I'm necessarily talking about longevity. The ACC ran men's college basketball for a very long, extended period of time, which is what I'm saying the SEC is doing in football.
Yeah.
I wasn't necessarily comparing today's time with the ACC basketball. I was more comparing longevity of a conference running that particular sport.
Well, okay. Anyways.
And I do agree with you. I think Texas is going to mop the floor with Michigan.
I don't care if Michigan's the national champions or not. They lost a lot of players.
Look, they won because they shouldn't have been there.
No.
Georgia
they were the best team in college football last year.
Had Georgia been put in as they should have been put in, Georgia would have won the title again last year against anybody in that playoff team in those playoff games.
Yeah, if they would have had to play Alabama again, it would have been a close game. They would have won it in the second game, I believe. But
I fully believe that.
That's one of those annoying things where, like,
excuse me,
I'll never forget that one year Georgia beat Auburn in the SEC championship, and then ended up playing in the national championship against Alabama, who did not play in their conference championship at all, but still got in at 4 and ended up playing us in the championship and beating us the Hail Mary. Yeah. I'm a Georgia fan, obviously. If no one can tell, I'm a Georgia fan, so I'm just gonna put it out there. Leave that on the table. I'm not biased towards Georgia, though. Yes, they are the number 1 team in the nation, though. So it's hard to hate that. Like, what more can you say? What more can you say?
As you can see, I'm a Clemson fan, no hiding.
Really?
But also, as you can tell, I'm not biased. I will speak what I see, and what I see is we are not the team we should be currently. And that's just what it is.
Do you think it's a coordinator thing? Or do you think it's a Cade thing?
I think it's and I hate to say this, I think this is a head coach thing.
I think it's his Dabo.
I think this is the Dabo issue.
Oh.
Because, I mean, when you look at the last few quarterbacks that we've had, they've been the run and gun, the screen passes, and it's worked. Deshaun, T-Law, even Taj Boyd, it worked pretty well. Taj Boyd might not have been the fastest, but he could move on his feet as a quarterback and move the ball.
Yeah, he could move the ball. He also had some all right receivers.
Something like that. But I think Dabo is still trying to run the offense the way he has with Trevor Lawrence, Deshaun, Taj, and Cade, DJ. They're just not those guys. They're not.
This picture floating around right now is that picture from 247 Sports where you got DJ right there with Bryce Young and CJ Stroud.
No, I hadn't seen that.
Yeah, because he was the 5-star. He was a 5-star recruit, one of the best, if not second best, behind Bryce Young, I think it is, and then CJ was behind him. Like he was.
When you get a second, if you can find that, send it to me.
I will. He was the hype.
Oh yeah, he was. He was supposed to be the